Getaway Day. As always, I am Mason. On the far side is Gautam, and here in the middle, for the second time, I believe he's now our second return guest, Major League pitcher Ryan Loutos, number 68 of the St. Louis Cardinals, owner of a 0.00 career ERA. So, Ryan, thank you very much for being here with us again, bud.
Thanks. That intro is gonna make me blush. That was pretty good. Makes me feel special right there.
I would hope so. We do really enjoy whenever you come on the pod. It's really cool getting a perspective that Gautam and I have literally zero other way to get it. Because I mean, honestly, I don't know anyone else besides high school baseball guys. So it's like,
Mhm.
but no. So how's life? Things have changed a lot since you were on here in spring training. Um, that whole major league pitcher thing being one of them, but
Yeah, let's see. We talked back in January or February of 2023, I think, and so I went and played a full season in the minors that year. I started off. I actually got sent to Double A for like the first week or two of the season, and then went up to Triple A. Had kind of a tough year overall. Started off. It was kind of just like first half for the most part, and then a slow decline, like just kind of a dumpster fire second half, and kind of went through some growing pains along the way. But it was good. It was good. Basically, this game so hard and learned a lot, and then went home last off season, came back this last season with no expectations, and kind of just got to a spot where I was just excited to play and didn't really wasn't putting too much pressure on any kind of result or thing that could happen. And then before I knew it, I got called up. It was crazy. That whole it's funny. It's just I think the previous year I had more expectations for myself, and I think that kind of weighed on me a little bit too much, and dealing and that kind of put some extra struggle on myself, or put some extra pressure on myself that I didn't necessarily need. And this year I really went into it with just a enjoying every day, gonna do as best as I can, and however the chips fall, they fall. And I think it allowed me to be a better version and get to throw a couple innings, 3 outings in the big leagues, and have a pretty good year. So pretty grateful for how it all went.
it was really cool seeing it from our perspective too. Because after you came on, like I didn't really get a chance to watch a whole lot of Memphis games. Obviously, I did go to Indianapolis, watch you guys.
Mhm.
Didn't get to see you pitch that day. That was a bit of a bummer.
But,
But
mhm.
no, just it was really cool seeing you one in spring training, and then when you got like I was sitting there waiting for you to get called up. Like guys kept going down with injuries and things, and it's like, come on, he's there.
Yeah.
You can do it. My question is, whenever you did get the call, I know that managers like to have fun with that. Whenever they tell guys for the first time, did
Mhm.
was your story of getting the call kind of cool? Was it?
Yeah,
I mean, I imagine it's
so
cool, but you know what I mean.
yeah, so it was like after the game on Sunday, I think we lost. I don't really remember. But we were all kind of just starting to change and shower and leave after the game, and my manager comes up and he's like, "Hey Lou, got some good news." And I kind of turned around and he goes, "You're going to the big leagues." And then my locker mates next to me started to, you know, yell, and everyone started to turn to face my locker, and shook my hand, gave me a hug, and everyone was coming up and giving me a hug, congratulating me. And so it's cool that I got to be there with the team, because it's not always that way, I think a lot of times, you'll get called up, and it'll be an off day and you'll be in your apartment by yourself, and then you gotta catch a flight or go on a bus and you don't see anybody. So I was pretty lucky to like get to see everyone in that situation. And then yeah, so that was cool. And then I packed in my bag. I was kind of obviously going through the emotions, pretty emotional. And um my girlfriend was waiting for me back at my apartment in Memphis at the time. So I kind of just told her I wanted to tell her in person. So I like texted her. I'm like, hey, I had a meeting with the pitching coach, like running a little bit late, which like never happens like in that situation. But I mean, she didn't really know. And then I called my dad. And like the funny thing about calling my dad was I go to the dugout to get some privacy. After like I'm waiting for my like to finish packing up my things and everything at the clubhouse, and I go to call my dad. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm getting a little emotional. I want to like say something kind of witty or something for I don't know why, just because. And I'm like about to click dad, and right as I'm about to click it, I'm getting a call from him, and I'm like, like why is he calling? He knows my game just ended. Like why? Like does he know? How does he know? There's no way he knows. How could he possibly know? I just got told, right? There's no way he knows. So I answer it, and I just hear nothing on the other line because he butt dialed me. And so like the moment that I was gonna call him to like to tell him that I'm going to the big leagues is when he butt dialed me. And that never happened. Like it's not like I just get random butt dials from my dad all the time. It just happened to me right at that moment. So then I hang up, I call him back, and I'm like, he's like, hey, what's going on? And when I called him, he was kind of on the other side. He was telling me this the other day that he was hopeful that I was calling him to tell him that he got called up, that I got called up. And then I call him. I'm like, "Hey, you butt dialed me. Everything all right?" And he's like, "Oh shoot!" Like he kind of was like, he didn't say this to me, but like internally, he was just like, "Dang, I thought this was gonna be a call." Tell. And then obviously, then I told him that, I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? You might need to take off work and head down to St. Louis." So that was pretty cool. And then that was a cool moment I get to share. And my family was all over on a Sunday at my house. I think they were grilling or something. And then I drive back home, back to my apartment in Memphis, um, and my girlfriend's waiting for me. And I like go into the apartment. I open like she's in my bedroom. I go into the bedroom door, and she's like laying on the carpet reading, and because I guess she just got tired of laying in the bed or something. She just wanted to lay like on a hard surface. And I was like, so then I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, hey. So then I get down and like kneel and I go down. And I'm like, hey, look, I kind of like bring her up to like get her at eye level. But we're both like kneeling on the ground. And we were about to go to Durham. And I told her that we have to change our plans. We're not going to Durham. We're going to St. Louis instead. Then, we had a cool moment there too. So it was cool. It was like the whole thing was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
So then you get to St. Louis and you've got an excruciating wait, like 10 games. You're sitting down the bullpen. What was that like? How ready were you to get into a game?
Someone asked me that today. Actually, I was golfing with some of my high school coaches, and they asked me like, "Oh man, that must have been tough, like just waiting." And I was like, you know, it really wasn't that bad because every day that I didn't go in and stayed on the big league roster, I was just cashing in a lot more money than I was making in
Yeah.
minor leagues. So like, I was happy just to hang out and catch that check and be on like we were on the street. We won like five in a row when I got there, so it was like it was it was fun. Like I mean, obviously I wanted to pitch, and there was definitely like a lot of anticipation for it, but it was just fun. Like I wasn't too worried about it. And I definitely went through ups and downs. Like I think if I would have pitched the first couple days up there, it would have been a lot tougher. I think I got a chance to like experience a lot of different emotions through those 12 days, and then allowed me to be like a better version of myself when the day actually did happen. So um, yeah, it was fun. Everyone always asks me like, oh man, it must be tough. It's like not really. I'm traveling around with the big league team. Like it's really it's still pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome to be even in the big leagues and not playing. So.
So, how much did it kind of help that like this year's Cardinals team especially had a lot of guys that you had played with down in Memphis? So it's like there's a lot of
Mhm.
familiarity there, I would assume.
Um, yeah, I think that's the coolest part. That's part of like the fun part about being in AAA even too is that all of a sudden now you're playing with half your team has big league time. Like some significant amounts, some less so. And then when you go up and you're seeing your teammates, I played with you and I played with Mason Wind in high A, double A, and triple A. I played with Pedro Pajes at all the, in double A and triple A. I played with this guy at this level, and it's like, okay, this is familiar. It's like, it also makes it makes you feel a little more confident that you know that you can do it and you can handle it because you played with those guys. And yes, they're great players, and obviously that's why they're there. But you know that you can hang with them and be with them. So it builds a lot of like confidence seeing those guys there too that you played with, and then also just makes the whole situation easier because going on to a new team in a new clubhouse is tough when you don't know anybody. So when you go in and you know most of the guys and there's only a few guys that you got to meet, it makes a big difference. And obviously, I met a lot of those guys at spring training, so that was also helpful. But yeah, it definitely makes the whole experience easier because there's a lot of guys that you're friends with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So sitting down in the bullpen with the Cardinals' other relievers, like,
Mhm.
did you take anything away, like, in terms of your routine? Did your routine change at all, or are you doing the same things that you were doing at AAA, for example?
The routines definitely were just different because it was. Um, I mean, in the bullpen, nothing really changed that much. I would say, like how I am during like the game in the bullpen. Routines kind of changed a little bit, like pregame and other things, because I had family with me always, and like there were some things. Oh, we got a cattail there in
Yeah,
front of Mason.
Mookie Pet's over here coming to say hi.
um, so yeah, nothing really changed too much. It was definitely just like rolling with the punches because everything is brand new. You're in a whole new environment that's way different than the minor leagues. So like, yes, you're trying to keep as much of your routine as you can, but it's not as make or break. You're just learning to like just roll with it and know that you'll be fine and figure it out. So
So those 10 days that it took between you getting called up and actually getting your first bit of action there on June 1st. Um,
mhm.
like so it you got called up and you guys were in St. Louis, right? And then you went to
Mhm.
Chicago, I think, for a 3-game set.
We went to Cincy actually, and then we went to Philly.
Okay.
We played at home against Chicago. We played at home against Chicago.
That's what it was. Okay, it was home against Chicago because
Yeah.
that's when it was going to be Joe Buck and Chip calling the game together, and then that game got rained out.
Yes, because
Okay.
yeah, they. I remember seeing them. I remember seeing them in the clubhouse that day. That sounds
Okay.
right.
But so I guess just so that you kind of know how cool it is just to from the outside perspective, myself and a whole bunch of people here in the Twitch chat, we actually had watch parties for all 10 days from the day you got
Mhm.
called up, just waiting. And
That's
the
awesome.
first 3 or 4, I think we're all in person because I was up in Chicago. And
Mhm.
it's one of those that I can't even imagine what the nerves were like for you because I'm sitting there like, come on, put him in, put him in, put
Yeah,
him in.
yeah.
And then I see that number 68 on your chest, and that's kind of a cool number for recent Cardinals rookies. Like that was DC's number, it was Lars's number. Like there's been a whole bunch of good
Mhm.
players wearing that number. Does that like I know it just gets assigned, but is that something that you notice and is kind of like, hey, okay,
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, Lars came up to me and told me that hey, that's a good number. That was my first number and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, I mean, it was cool. I think it's cool just because also like, I mean, the significance of the number, it didn't like mean as much, I guess, but that is cool. I didn't know about DC. That was DC's number as well. But the I think, but the coolest part was just like my friends and family buying jerseys
mhm,
and seeing like Luda 68 on it with like that being like, you know, a Luda's jersey, not like oh, I just made my custom jersey and I just put a number on it. Like, no, this is like, you know, St. Louis Cardinals like Ryan Loutos jersey. Like that was a cool like thing just to see like my family wearing a St. Louis Cardinals jersey with our last name on it and with the 68 on it, and like that was pretty neat. Oh, actually, the one significant part about 68 was that my college number and one of my favorite numbers, like the number that I always like try to be when I get the chance is 34, and 68 is 34 times two. So that was kind of a little funny coincidence there. So I was 34 for all my 4 years in college, um, and I would love to be 34. If I get a chance to choose my number at some point. Um, so it was kind of funny that it was 34 times two.
So you do get into that first game in Philly. Can you just walk us through what that game was like?
I guess first of all, how much do you remember about that game?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't like the game itself. I don't even remember who started the game. To be honest with you, I think it was. I think who pitched that week. I think it might have been Sonny. I think it might have been Sonny who started that game. You can maybe look it up and see. I'm not really sure, but most of those games, I couldn't tell you all the details of like what happened because it just turns into a blur. And then I remember Bryce Harper hitting a home run in the top or sorry bottom of the seventh. And the moment that he hit it was like a 2 or 3 run home run, I knew that we were going to be down by enough runs for me to throw. And I was like, the moment I saw that ball in the air, I get out of my seat, take off my sweatshirt before the phone even rings, and know that like, yeah, this is my time to start moving. So I said, sure enough, before the ball even gets, before the ball even hits the seats, we get a phone starts ringing, get Loutos going, And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so and then I knew I was going to be in the game. The moment that inning ended, I knew I was in the game. Obviously, like I think if we would have came back and scored 8 runs, then maybe they would have put something else in. But then they would have called down. So they would have said, "Yep, you're in the game." And I was like, "All right, here we go." So then I start warming up, and I'm nervous. Like as nervous as you can be. Like obviously, I've had different important sports events in my life. Like that are important at the time, right? Like maybe a regional playoff game in high school or college or World Series game, and like yeah, it's like it wasn't like I was any more nervous than I was for those games, to be completely honest with you. It was just like there's only so many nerves you can have in your body, and I was near the top of it, right? Like so I felt that level of nerves before in other important games in my life. It was just very high, to the point where you're like, it's just a lot, and I'm getting heckled in the bullpen, and um, they're yelling, every time I spike a slider or miss a fastball a little high arm side, they're yelling, that's not going to work out. Up here, you're going to be sent right back to AAA here with, King, who was the other guy who just pitched and gave up the home run to Harper before, and they're yelling, and the funny thing is, like, there's like a whole 10 guys that are just like yelling and chirping, and then there's like one person who like I didn't see who it was, but the one there's one person, like one guy, like I could hear him. He was like kind of above me, behind me, and he's just like, "It's okay, Ryan. Like you're gonna be fine. Don't listen to them." Like trying to talk me down, which is kind of funny. And I could hear him very clearly. So whoever that was, I don't know who it was, but it was kind of I'll never forget that. And then running in was very very cool. I was just looking around the stadium and just warming up. I remember like seeing like Bryson Stott come up to bat, and I just kind of like took it all in, like, whoa, this is big leagues. And I'm looking around. There's 45,000 people at Citizens Bank, and that park is so cool, such a cool park. And I just was like, this is so cool. However this goes, this is cool. Like whatever. I truly felt like in that moment, like yes, I really wanted to just like get through it, have a clean inning, ideally. But like if I walked 4, I would have been like, that was cool. I just pitched in a big league game. Like that was unbelievable, Like it was. And then afterwards, I was sitting in the dugout. Everyone's giving me hugs and congratulations and dugout and stuff. And I like could not hold back tears. I was like, and I'm not an emotional guy at all. Like I'm definitely not emotional. Never really cry that often. And I was really struggling. It was just a whole lot of. I think it was just like all of the moments leading up to that right then and there like were just rushing through me and just thinking back to all the memories and thinking back to my dad and all of the memories that we had and like him like believing me and pushing me even when there were a lot of times that I didn't believe that I could do it and like and then there was just this rush of like I just did it. I can't believe I just did the thing. I just like that was such a crazy feeling because it's so hard. It's so hard to like I was always very hesitant to say that that was my goal growing up because it's like I know how hard it is. I would always say what I would always tell people is like I'm gonna work as hard as I can and see how far I can go. That's what I would say. I would never say like my goal is just to pitch in a big league game. It would just be that. And so because I think there was always a part of me that knows like yeah I'm gonna work as hard as I can, but like it's a crapshoot whether or not I make it. There's so many things that have to go your way to stay healthy. And I was like I can't believe it actually just happened. And then, you know, there's a really cool video of like my brothers, my dad, you know, my girlfriend's family and her brother and or her sister and brother-in-law were there. And they were all walking down the stands to come like hug me and stuff. And I'm just a mess. I cannot hold back. I'm like just bawling my eyes out as they come down and have a really cool moment with my siblings and dad and girlfriend and her parents. And it was such a cool, memorable day. It was awesome.
So, um, I know whenever players get called up, teams bring their families out to see their first game. And I do know that whenever it doesn't necessarily happen the first game that they're up, they'll keep the family there. With yours being a full 10 days, like what was the situation there? Because I imagine your family wanted to be there for the first time you were there. So were they just traveling with you, basically? How'd that work?
So we were in St. Louis for Monday through Sunday. We only ended up playing 5 games that week because we had an off day and the rain out, and then whatever. It was just kind of like a weird week. But I had at every game that week, I had like anywhere from like 35 to 50 people there, 45 people there at every game, and you know, a lot of family, friends, um, teammates, coaches, so many people that were there, you know, and some people stayed for 1 game, some people stayed for 3, some people stayed for 2, left, went back home because they had a job or whatever, then came back for the weekend. Like it was all over. People were like, it was cool. Like the support I felt was pretty special of people just like dropping everything to come down to St. Louis in the middle of the week to come and support me at and be there and everything. And like feel very, very grateful that I had all those people that came that week, and it was so cool. Like I said, again, people came for whatever they could. If everyone could be there for the whole week, they would have, But everyone came and did what they could, and it was awesome. And then we went to Cincy, so I didn't pitch, so it was kind of like, oh man, like everyone had a good time, but it was kind of like, dang, we were really hoping to see Ryan pitch, and then my family, so brothers, sister, girlfriend, parents, all came to Cincy, um, and then they also came to Philly as well. So, um, and then when I was in the crazy thing about Philly though was that my girlfriend was planning on being in Philly that weekend anyway, because she has a sister and her brother-in-law that live there, and her mom was going to be there in Philly that same weekend. So it was like, what a coincidence and what a crazy timing. So so then we get to Philly, and then her dad even ends up flying out because I'm there, and then he ends up showing up like just in time for the debut, which was kind of cool. Um, uh, and yeah, it was super special. Like, I mean, it was so like I kind of had like a caravan going, and for the whole 2 weeks, or 12 to 10 days, whatever it was. It was yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, to get to experience that with them was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing those stories. That's super cool to hear. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So maybe a little bit more of maybe a fun question. Rookies always get hazed, is what I can tell. Have you been hazed yet in the majors? Who was it? And what they make you do?
Um, so there's like nothing's like too bad. It's pretty normal to have like as a rookie you have to have alcohol with you at all times in case someone wants to drink. Like on the buses back from after the game, or from like you get on the plane and go on the bus to the hotel, like you have to have alcohol in case, you know, someone wants a beverage of their choice. So you have to have a little selection, and all the rookies kind of do that. And there's also like I was on. It's usually like the guy that's like the most rookie of the group. Obviously, there's a lot of rookies, but like the most rookie has to carry around a speaker, because the same thing on the bus rides. Sometimes we don't have like the speaker system isn't great, so then we have to have like this big speaker and carry it around, make sure it's charged at all times. use it for the plane as well. So like you kind of just have to carry around the speaker wherever you go, and make sure it's charged. So I had to do that. Yeah, have beverages, and then I had to sing on the bus a couple times. So that was a unique experience. Obviously, like it's and the speaker system was bad, and it was like it wasn't like it ended up not being like it was just like yeah it's just tough. It's like embarrassing in every way, but you just have to kind of like do your best and pick a song that you know the words to, right? So like I had planned the whole time to sing "Time for Me to Fly" by REO Speedwagon. I don't know if you guys know REO Speedwagon songs, but that song is one song for whatever reason. I know every word to it. So I did that on my like first karaoke day, which was great, except the speaker system wasn't great. So like no one could hear me pretty much. Uh and I did it actually I did it what's the word? Like with no music either. So I just like I can't think of the word, whatever it's called.
Just acapella.
Acapella, yes. Sorry, I can't think of that word. And so I did acapella, and then like the next time I was up in Miami, they made me sing again, and I was not ready. We were going to Miami, and they made me sing some song that had the word Miami in it. I can't even remember what the song was. I didn't know the song. It was just a couple guys that were really drunk at the front of the bus decided they wanted to see a rookie sing because that's what they like to do when they're drunk. So that's what they did, and I did terrible. And then they're like, "All right, you've done enough. Go back to the back of the bus."
So
Now
I got another
that's
question, another fun question for you. So what's your like go-to pregame snack or meal?
What's your pregame snack or meal? Oh, um, in AAA, it's usually I'll make a peanut butter banana sandwich. That's like my go-to. Maybe there weren't a lot of good food options around the hotel beforehand. I need to get some like calories and some substance in me, so I'll make a nice peanut butter banana sandwich and put a little, maybe sprinkle a little honey on there too. Can't beat it. You can't beat it. It tastes so good every time. Um, and then I mean, in the big leagues, the food is so good, so you just end up eating whatever they have. Like I remember in Miami, they had like the best plantains I've ever had in my entire life, and I just had so many plantains the whole week when I was there.
so I've heard like John Kruk and some other guys who had played in Philly quite a bit, like especially if they play for Philly, because they don't always get the same food that the visiting teams get. They would have people smuggle Philly cheesesteaks out of the visitors clubhouse. Are their Philly cheesesteaks really that good that they're worth smuggling into the home dugout?
um, wait, I'm sorry. Could you explain that again? Wait,
So
they
like
well,
John
we had
Kruk and like a
Phillies.
whole bunch of these Phillies greats, including like Jimmy Rollins and
Yeah,
guys who played a lot more recently, have always said that the Phillies will give Philly cheesesteaks to the visiting team in the clubhouse,
yes,
and
yes.
they're apparently so good that they would have people go in that just work for the team and
Oh,
take
I see.
Philly cheesesteaks
It was
back.
smart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. I see what you're saying. Yes. So we did have Phillies. Everyone would have like one Philly cheesesteak a day. And I think it was just strategy to slow us all down, so we weren't as effective when we went out to play. We were a little sluggish, um, but they were absolutely delicious. I love a good Philly cheesesteak, and it was definitely one of the better Philly cheesesteaks I've ever had. So, um, yeah, they did it. They did it right. I didn't. I don't know if I tried another Philly around there, but it was the best one. I think I may have had one other Philly cheesesteak around there, and it was definitely like the best one I had there.
I know that they keep those records of like who eats the most Philly cheesesteaks in a weekend series
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah, I do remember that, and I don't remember how we did or what exactly happened, or how we did, or what. But I just know that there were definitely a lot of Philly cheesesteaks being made and eaten, and there was a lot of like when we were on the travel day, like they would have like a sign up sheet for like who wants a Philly and cheese and toppings and all that stuff.
So we got a comment here saying that you're more Bona than Fide, but you're definitely a big leaguer. So are you a big Bona Beef fan, being from the Chicagoland area. Is that what I'm taking from this comment here?
I like bone and beef. I actually, to shout out my dad, Mr. Beef is pretty good too. And I like Portillo's, but yeah, I'm used to the Chicago Italian beef way over Philly cheesesteak. Um, yeah, it's funny. More boner than five.
I I take it that's one of your buddies.
I assume so. I bet it's Henry. Is what I had to get. What I had to guess, but I don't know.
So I guess jumping into your off season, is there anything like specific that you're working on that you want to talk about?
No, honestly, there's not a whole lot. Every off season's kind of the same. You kind of go into it like I need to throw harder, so you just like because everybody wants to throw harder, and because more velocity is always is always a the velocity is still the number one predictor of success in the big leagues. So you always want to throw harder, but so like this part of the off season is just like lifting really heavy, a lot of volume, trying to like put on some lbs of muscle as much as I can. And then once I start throwing, it's really just like honestly, it's there's nothing too much that I want to change. I usually what I've kind of realized is that when I go into an off season and decide this is like the thing I'm working on, this is like what I need to fix. What ends up happening is I end up going to the next season and I just figure out what feels best and I can compete with, and then I go with that. So like, you know, last year I worked on changeups and sinkers the whole off season, and both of those things I didn't throw them at all the first half of the year. And when I got called up at all, I ended up throwing 14s and sliders because it was just what felt most natural and what I could compete with and what seemed to be getting the best results. So it's hard. Like you can work on things in the off season, and like I definitely worked on like lowering my slot last off season, which helped. Um, but really, it's just honestly this off season, it's like I play catch with all my pitches, like six different pitches I don't even throw in games, just to like maintain feel and be able to manipulate a baseball as best I can. And then I kind of start to iron it out in spring training of like, okay, what am I actually going to roll out in the season? What pitches and whatnot? Because until a hitter gets in the box and you're on a dirt mound and you're in spring training or you're in the cold or you're in the summer heat, it's hard to compare when you're throwing indoors in Chicago. So, um, but yeah, the biggest things like I started throwing sinkers at the end of last year, so I'm gonna continue to try to refine that and make that um, potentially my primary fastball at some point in the future, just because I like have lower spin rate, so my ability to carry the baseball isn't very good, even though I spin it efficiently. So um, I'm gonna end up needing. So sinker is a more natural pitch for me anyway, and because I lowered my slot, it makes it a little bit easier. So long story short, that's gonna be. I'm kind of keeping my arsenal pretty similar, and then gonna hopefully go more sinkers and uh, be more like sinker slider change up, potentially. But
So this may be a stupid question, but whenever you're kind of working during the off season and things, is your goal um, like I just want to be able to control the ball as best as I can, and the goal is just to get outs, or is the goal to get strikeouts and ground ball pitchers, or that's like a happy accident sort of thing? Like, what's the mindset? Does it change for everyone? Some people want to get that contact, or what's kind of the thing there?
to be honest, it's well. First off, like the other big thing I'm working on is my mental game. That ended up being like for me the biggest thing that I've realized this last season was how important that is for me and how important it is to find a way to be near your best as often as possible, and it just allows you to be the most consistent version of yourself because a lot of times the difference between a AAA player and a big leaguer is just the big leaguer is more consistent, but the top level of play is the same. So how do you get there? It's usually work on the mental game. So that's another thing that is a focus of mine this offseason. But in terms of like, yeah, striking out guys or ground ball pitcher or whatever, like for me, what works the best is like simplicity. So simple approaches. When it's less than two strikes, my goal is to put the ball over the plate and make it as nasty or as hard as I can over the plate. And when I do that, I end up putting those pitches in good locations. So if I try to rip a sinker over the plate as hard as I can on an 0-0 pitch, I'm trying to throw a strike, and by doing that, I'll let the movement go to that side of the plate, arm side, right? Or if I'm trying to throw a slider, I'm trying to make it as nasty of a strike as I can make it over the plate. And the moment it gets to 2 strikes, that's when you expand a little bit and you try to you don't expand much, but you just expand enough to hopefully get a chase. Because like the stats indicate that when it's less than 2 strikes, your best bet is always to throw a strike. And when it's in the zone, when there are 2 strikes, unless it's 3-2, your best bet is to throw it out of the strike zone. That predict the best results. So that's kind of my result. Or my mindset and process with it. I try to keep it as simple as possible. If I strike guys out, great. If I get outs, great. The goal is just to throw as many strikes as I can. Because obviously, I can't throw 100% strikes, but I'm sure going to try and I just won't because it's like I just don't have that good of command. But for me, what gets me to 65% strikes or 67, whatever that number is by trying to throw almost everything over the plate. So, yeah, whether I get ground balls or fly balls or whatever, it doesn't really matter. Outs are the biggest thing. Outs and strikeouts, and no walks. Like those 3 things are the biggest things. If you can, outs, strikeouts, no walks.
So if I were just to say it as simply as I could, just if you're talking to a 12-year-old that's learning to pitch, the goal is just throw strikes, throw good pitches, and make the hitter beat you.
Most of the time, yeah, usually, yeah. When you give a hitter too much credit is when they beat you because you'll think that you have to be perfect on this 0-0 slider. You'll miss because you're trying to be perfect. Now you're 1-0. Now you're like, okay, I'll throw a fastball inside. You think you have to be perfectly inside. You miss inside. Ball 2. It's 2-0. Now you have to come to him. So now you're either in a spot where you're probably going to walk him or you have to come to him. And it would have just been better if you just went right at him and, kind of be aggressive and just go right at him. And then all of a sudden they foul it off. And you're like, oh, wow, I was so afraid of him hitting it for a home run that I could have just, I should have just went right at him and he would have just fouled it off and it would have been strike 1, And of course, sometimes they do hit a home run or whatever. But it's like that just aggressive mindset of just being attacking in the strike zone. And that seems to be the biggest thing for me is just to never give anybody too much credit, never be afraid of anybody, and just again, it's hard to do. I don't do it great all the time. I'm saying that because it's almost like a reminder to myself, like that's the goal. And yeah, just pound. You can just pound, just throw your best stuff over the plate. And worst case scenario, you get hit, and that's okay. I can live with that. It's hard to live with, getting scared, walking the first 2 guys, and then giving up the homer, and it's a 3-run homer versus giving up a homer to the first guy. Now it's just a solo shot. It's like okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So do you shut down from throwing at all, or are you throwing all year round?
I'm shut down right now. Okay. I like to take a little bit of time off. It's not as fun. It's a little bit harder. Like once I start building back, getting time away from the game is like important for me mentally and physically, and I just get to like enjoy. One, it helps me just like enjoy lifting a little bit more right now, and then not have to worry about throwing something. And then 2, like it's good just to like have a little reset and then kind of build back up here, which will be probably the next like week or 2. I'll probably start picking up baseball again.
So I know last time we had talked, you were doing a little bit of a side project with the front office. Is that something that you're still working on now, or since you're up in AAA, the majors, you're kind of being thrown into more of these higher leverage situations? Are you kind of maybe backed away a little bit from that and focusing on baseball, or just like actually playing, or what's kind of the?
So yeah, last time it was like January 23. That was right when I was ending my that was right when I was finishing up my work with the front office. So I stopped working that with them in January 2023. I was kind of ready for a change. I was ready to just focus a little bit more on baseball and enjoy being a baseball player. Um, so yeah, that kind of stopped right around then, and then I ended up picking up and doing a little bit of consulting work for Premier Pitching and Performance in St. Louis baseball facility. A little bit more lax, a little bit more like I just got to do this project for them essentially, and I've been kind of working a little bit part time for them the last couple of years. Since then, last year and a half, um, kind of doing the same kind of things, building web applications that have both coaches and players as the end users for them. So you can see data and videos and analytics and all that stuff. So yeah, I've been doing that, and I still do that this off season. Just to and yeah, and honestly, now even if I wanted to go back to the front office, I think because I'm on the 40 man now, I don't even think I'd be allowed to. So um,
Yeah.
it was going to end at some point anyway, unless I just obviously got released and then started working in the front office. So, but I'm very grateful for those opportunities that I had with them, and all those guys in the front office are awesome, and like the fact that they were able to provide me that opportunity while I was playing was like the coolest thing. So
Yeah, and that's why I ask, because that's hard work. Like, I mean, Gotham and I are literally just engineers. We've talked about this before, and so we understand that side of it and just how difficult it can be. Trying to do it while also being a pro ball player is, I can't imagine easy. So one of those that I figured it probably wasn't like 1A 1B right now, but
yeah,
it's
no,
I
I mean it
respect
was
that you're still doing that. That's really cool.
it's something where it's definitely nice to make the extra money, especially when I was in the lower salary in AAA, and Double A and High A and stuff, and to make a little bit extra money. I was when I was making a lot more to code for the front office than I was to play in the minors for them, which is pretty funny and ironic. But I was part time, and the situation was very unique in that you know I was a baseball player first. I'm working for the team that I'm a baseball player on. So like if it was ever a situation where it's like, hey guys, like I can't talk right now, I'm at the field or this or that, whatever. It's like, oh yeah, of course you got that. Like so that was cool. It was pretty cool to be able to like work also like with guys. I learned so much. Like those guys that they're full time working in the front office, they're so smart and are so ingrained in the technical details of it all that like I got to learn so much from them. And they were very like obviously understandably um understanding for the situation that I was in, and they kind of like I think they liked having also a player in the front office too. So it was fun. It was good. It was just best of both worlds.
So if you could take one pitch from any pitcher, what would it be and why?
Um, one pitch from any pitcher. A good question.
Can I make a suggestion here? Have you ever played
uh,
backyard baseball? The the
well,
computer game
back
for
I mean, a long time. Yeah, a long time ago. I don't really remember it, but
so
I do remember playing it. Yeah.
so one, they brought it back on Steam for 8.99 or whatever. It's kind of fun.
Oh,
But
really?
Kenny Kawaguchi, his split ball, pretty
That's
insane.
pretty good. That's good to know. All right. Well, that's on the list. I would say of a current big leaguer, I feel like cutters are always fun and changeups are always fun. Um, everyone's got sliders these days. Everyone's got curveballs, but like Pedro Martinez's changeup, maybe
Ooh,
that's
that's a
a
good one.
that's a classic. I mean, he made that thing look like a fastball and just made guys look terrible on it all the time. So sliders and curveballs are fun, but I think and cutters are kind of cool, but it's such a unique thing, and like a lot of times some of the best closers have it. Like obviously Mariano Rivera and Kenley Jansen. Um, so but I think yeah, Pedro Martinez is changeup.
So I know a lot of guys have been starting to throw splitters more here in the last year or two as well. It's kind of it's at least it seems to me is like that's the new. Everybody had a slider. Now everybody's going to having some kind of a split finger fastball. Is that something that you kind of noticed too, or is that just one that people are starting to talk about, but it's always kind of been there? Do you know?
Um, I think baseball goes in waves and kind of has fads, and they kind of follow. Like what tends to happen is it's like this pitcher went from a 5 ERA to a 2.5, and the difference was that it added this pitch, and therefore then everyone feels like they need to add this pitch. So then you just start hearing it all around, and like it just comes, it was a sleeper for a while. It was this pitch, it was that pitch, and it's just kind of a way. It's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses a little bit with it all. I think like my changeup that I throw now is kind of like split. It's not a split by any means, but I do like kind of split these two fingers pretty wide. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's just something to it. I guess I think it's just like anything. It's like there was one season where like everyone was throwing cutters, like in 2023. Like I came back to spring training and it's like, oh, everyone's got a new cutter now. It's like that was just like the thing. And then it's splitters, and then it's sweepers, and then it's knuckleballs. It's like then four seam fastballs will be back. It's like high spin four seamers were the thing for a while. Then it was sweepers, and now it's splits. And the game just kind of ebbs and flows. I think
And
so.
now Kodai Senga's got the ghost fork, and that's going to
The
be
ghost
next.
fork, yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, those guys are in a category. They're on the Yu Darvishes of the world, and whatnot. That throw 11 pitches, um, but yeah, there's always a new big pitch. It's just finding ways to be unique, and not a lot of guys throw splits. So if you can do that and do it effectively, hitters don't see it that often. So how can they prep for it? So that's definitely an important thing.
So have you watched any of the postseason World Series? Do you have any thoughts there? If not, I've got a specific question I can ask. I'm just curious on.
Sure. No, I've watched like on and off the whole playoff. It's been some great games. Obviously, the World Series has been like pretty slow outside of like the first game was awesome, and then they've all been good games. But obviously the series being 3-1, or going up the Yankees or the Dodgers going up 3-0, was a little more boring. But I mean, there's been like yeah, just some late inning comebacks, and like I would say like the thing that I've noticed the most is just like how hard it is to close out a game in the playoffs. Like you see all of these. Um, I can't think of the Guardians closer's name on the top of
Clase?
my head. Fawcett, yeah, you just see him like just implode after being like the best reliever in baseball. Like, and it's not like he may have changed anything too drastic or whatnot. It's just really hard to close baseball games, especially in the playoffs. It's not just some hot Sunday day game in 100-degree heat. It's like, I mean, it's those last three outs are hard in those situations. So that's what I've noticed. It's just closing out these games is not easy.
So
Right? Yeah.
I was going to say, it seems like a lot of teams are turning to their closers for the first time this year, trying to get basically 2 inning saves and things like that. So it's not even that they're necessarily trying to get the 3 outs; it's they're trying to get the last 5, 6. So I imagine that would, especially if you haven't done it at all that year, like that's got to be tough, right? Just being thrust into that.
Yeah, I don't think it's I understand why they do it. And I understand that sometimes the most important pitches thrown aren't in the ninth inning and that they're in the inning before that. So I do understand it. But you're asking a guy to do something he hasn't done all year in the games that are most important to do them in. And I'm sure if you ask managers and why they do it that way, like they have their reasons, and I get it. But roles and consistency are super important. And I know, like as a player, that's something that I've realized is like, yeah, you'll take the ball whenever. Like if a coach wants you to take the ball in the eighth, like you'll do it. It's not like you won't do it and you don't want to do it. But at the same time, taking the ball, it's just like I don't know. Like I was fortunate to have a role this year in AAA of like generally being the closer. and we had a couple other guys close games too. But like, I got the ball a significant, like quite a few of my outings were in that role, and it it made a big difference for me of like leaning into that and just like and wrapping my head around that. So it's good to be flexible and knowing that like yeah, you can go 5 outs and get a save if you need to, but it is tough for sure. And I don't really quite understand it, but I'm sure they have their reasons. I think if I was a manager, I would maybe lean just keeping him in the ninth if you could, but I know they have their reasons.
And then, kind of along the same lines, in Game One of the World Series, Aaron Boone brings in Nestor Cortez, guy who had been a starter for most of the year, coming off the injured list, hasn't pitched in like a month, and then he gets thrown at this really tough spot where he has to face Otani, and then ends up giving up the walkout grand slam to
Hmm.
Freeman. It's like that was a really really rough position to be put into.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard, but then again, you see all these World Series teams. If you look back the last, I actually just had like a video show up on YouTube the other day of like the last pitch of the World Series in the last like 30 years, something like that. And like you see all of these guys that like all these guys that have thrown the last pitch of the World Series or whatever, like that were starters. It's like Charlie Morton for the Astros threw the last pitch in 2017.
Madison
Madison Bumgarner,
Bumgarner.
obviously.
Yeah, in like
Yeah,
7
Adam
different World
Wainwright did it.
Series.
Yeah, like I mean, so like it's just hard. Like you hope you can have that guy that can do it, where like they could just take the ball in those roles and still be the same guy or better. But you almost need that in order to win a World Series, I guess. So you kind of maybe just throw guys out there and hope that it works. And if it does, you're gonna look like a genius. And if you don't, you're gonna get criticized. So it's hard. I mean, some guys can do it, some guys can't. Um, Sometimes it's just more random than we give it credit for. So there's a lot of that too.
You're damned if you pull Blake Snell after 8 innings. You're damned if you don't, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's just all Monday morning quarterbacking. So I don't know. Playoff baseball is a very unique and cool thing. So that's what makes it fun too. It's different than regular season baseball.
So Memphis has been to the postseason, and I think even when you were in Springfield, maybe were you in Springfield at the end of the season? I can't remember because I'm trying to remember the minor league playoffs. I know you've played in them. With
I've not played in the minor
oh,
league playoffs. So Springfield has the last 2 years, but I wasn't with Springfield.
okay,
We haven't in Memphis. We've been around 500 the last couple of years, but Springfield made the playoffs the last 2 years, and then they got knocked out. So
but yeah, I was just trying to figure out if it seems like it's a similar feel. It just as a player being in like the minor league playoffs, and I mean obviously there's a huge
yeah,
difference, but the number of people watching you.
yeah. Well, hopefully, maybe next year I'll play in the playoffs in some way, and I'll jump back on the pod and we can have that. We can revisit that question.
I look forward to seeing number 34, Ryan Loutos, closing out the final game of the World Series for the Cardinals when nobody expects them to be good. So,
I'll take that. I like that prediction.
so maybe going back to just kind of a random, more fun question. So, I know with your debut, Tops like puts the MLB debut patch on the sleeve, and then they take it after the game. I assume you still get to keep that very first jersey, right? They don't take the jersey from you.
No, I have it. So
Okay, that's one that
yeah,
I've
I have it.
always wondered, and I would hate if they took the
Mhm.
jersey.
Yeah, no, I have it, and yeah, they kept putting the clubby every day would come and put the patch on. Maybe today's the day that this last day you'll wear the MLB debut patch. Um, but it's cool. We got to wear the baby blues for my debut. So like I have baby blue 68 Lotus jersey that's debuted. It's authenticated, and I gotta get it framed and stuff. But yeah, it's hanging in my closet right now. Pretty cool.
Did you keep any of the balls from the or that you threw too?
Yeah, actually they gave me like some balls from the game and then balls from the inning as well. And I kind of spread them around a little bit. I gave a couple to my grandparents. I gave one to my dad on Father's Day. I kind of wrote like a note on it on the ball, and then gave it to him on Father's Day. And then that's like 4 of the balls, and then I may have the other couple. I think I have the other couple. Yeah, so maybe I got like 6, and I've given 4 away. Yeah, 3 to my I have 3 sets of grandparents, so I gave them all each one, and then I gave my dad one with a note on it, and then I have 2 more at home. So yeah, I got to keep some from the game, some from the inning, because I think they only had like 2 from the inning or 3 from the inning, and 3 from the game.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how they did, because like with your first hit, they'll just get that specific ball and keep it. But
Yeah.
I know like with pitching, it's a little bit different because there's so many different balls being used.
Yeah, and like hopefully with I haven't struck out at anybody yet, but hopefully next year I'll get my first strikeout and I can keep that ball.
I look forward to you having just this big display of different like baseballs and memorabilia and stuff. You'll have to send me a picture once you get it going.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool to keep some of that stuff, and and have that. I see you got some stuff in the background there.
Oh, I got so much stuff in the back. I've also got a couple thousand baseball cards that are unsorted on the top here. So,
oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, I've got 60,000 cards or so in the office here. So I will be searching for your debut patch auto. So
that'd be sweet.
Are you allowed to say, is it in 24 update, or are they holding it for next year?
I have no idea.
Have you signed
I don't know.
You signed the card yet?
No.
Okay.
No, I haven't yet.
So it'll be next year.
I'll let you know. Yeah. So, you know probably more than I do, to be honest.
But I'll keep an eye out for your cards and save some for you. I imagine people will give them to you, but
yeah, I'll get some. I have some of my minor league cards, but yeah, I gotta get some big league ones now.
All right. Yeah, you got anything else? I know we got a World Series game starting here in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us, and I really enjoyed hearing your story and getting to ask you a bunch of questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I have enjoyed this. I enjoyed it both times, so I'm sure we'll have to keep doing this again in the future. So hopefully, hopefully next year we can do it, and it'll be post World Series Game 7 closing out save. That'd be cool.
Yep, you're gonna have to write Getaway Day Pod on like the bill of your hat for when you close out the series.
There you go. Yes, yeah. I'll send you the hat and everything. Hey, we just gotta stay healthy. That's all I really care about. That's a nice. I'll dream about that tonight. But as long as I'm staying healthy, I'm having a good day.
And we look forward to watching you next year. I will be there at opening day. I hope I get to see you there. So
that'd be awesome.
I'm going on. Awesome. This will be my 4th or 5th in a row, I think. So.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so I'll be looking out for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for coming on and doing this with us. We do really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Anytime.
And thank all of you for coming and hanging out while we talk with Ryan live. We will be getting this up on Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff here pretty soon. Kind of don't want to keep anybody from Game 5 of the World Series because this thing might end tonight. So thank you very much. See you guys next time. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.